Hi! So today I'm going to be talking about a new book that I've just read called Blood Countess by Lana Popovic. I'm really excited because I've enjoyed her previous works. I was really eager to dig into this one. Her other two novels that I've read so far are called Wicked Like a Wildfire, Fierce Like a Firestorm. I'd highly recommend those, especially if you read this and end up liking it. But anyway, let's talk about Blood Countess. Now, Blood Countess is about 288-page book. Yeah, it focuses on kind of the lore around Elizabeth Bathory. Elizabeth Bathory is a Hungarian noblewoman who was born in 1560, and her life is just a whole big malevolent mystery, basically. She has been reputed to torture, murder, mutilate all the young women who were serving her. She collected more young women from neighboring villages, and at one point she even got the daughters of noblemen to come and serve her so she could mutilate them in secret. Basically, she got in a lot of trouble for this, and that's kind of what this book is loosely about. It's not a complete historical telling. There are a few liberties taken, obviously, it's fiction. But it's really cool to just kind of see this story told in a fictional atmosphere because it's one of the greatest, honestly, historical murderous tales we have out there. There haven't been a lot of serial killer women, and not that I'm, supporting women to become serial killers, but it's just interesting to see these kinds of stories told from a female perspective, because we usually don't get that. And honestly, that is one of the things I think this book does really well, is it tells everything from a female perspective, which is especially important when we're talking about such a patriarchal society. It's the 1500s, 16th century, men rule the world, let's be real. So you've got two very, not powerful, but two very, strong women in this book. You've got Elizabeth Bathory, who is, married to a man. She's basically just an object on a shelf, and she really wants to get out of that, which is kind of, the book blames some of her behaviors on that. Obviously, she gets a lot of fun out of killing. You can't say it's all because she's trying to break out of patriarchal society, but that does have a little something to do with it. The second main character, who we see everything through her eyes, is Anna Dragulia, and she's just a Hungarian peasant. She's just living life in the village, having, a great time, I guess. Not really. She's barely making enough money. Her family doesn't really make enough money to get food. She's got tons of brothers and sisters. They're all going hungry. Her dad's a crazy alcoholic who beats them. Yeah, she's also having a lot of troubles with the patriarchy. Again, which this book highlights, it's kind of like a battle of the women against the men, but they can't actually outright battle because it's the 16th century, so they kind of take to these secretive battles against one another even. It's like they can't battle against the men, so they battle against one another, which is maybe why Elizabeth chooses women as all of her victims. Who knows? There's actually a part of the book that goes into that a bit. I won't spoil it. Yeah, I really like this book. For being a story about Elizabeth Bathory, it's not super gruesome, so if you're not into that, don't worry, you're not going to be too freaked out. There are some definitely gruesome passages. But the whole book is not just some gory thriller. There's more to it than that, much more. Another thing I really liked about this book is the language. I just love Popovic's prose. It's so poetic and lyrical. I just feel like I could read it all day long. Like, she even makes the most mundane things, like, I don't know, when Anna saw Elizabeth for the first time. I guess that's an important moment, but for her, it's just, the way she's written it, it's just like this magical event that, yeah, I don't know, like the most important thing that's ever happened, which obviously for these characters it probably is. But for us, this is the first thing we read in this book, and we're already drawn into this world so deeply and strongly just because of this lyrical prose. It's really cool. As for the story itself here, like I said before, it's loosely tied to the events of Elizabeth's life. I think she was historically a bit older when she started all of her torturing and maiming and murdering. In this book, she's like in her late teens, which makes sense because it's a young adult book, and that's around Anna's age. You want your two protagonists to be roughly the same age. It helps them relate to each other better, I think, for sure. But yeah, so it starts out, Anna and Elizabeth quickly have a connection, which I won't go too much into because that's kind of one of the book's major plot points. And yeah, it's basically the story. It's just their story about their relationship, their connection. And we're just following them, and we see everything through Anna's eyes. And at first, you know, Elizabeth is this great kind of almost mystical figure. She kind of embraces that so wholly. She just wants to be Elizabeth, wants to be with Elizabeth. It's crazy. She's just her idol. But then, as Elizabeth's torturing and murdering is a little more prevalent, you know, Anna kind of can't look past that anymore. Her eyes are opening to both Elizabeth and her ways, and it's just, wow, it's not good for her, let's put it that way. But to learn more, you're going to have to read the book, because I'm not going to give everything away. So, in conclusion, I definitely recommend this book to anyone who's interested in young adult books, fantasy, historical fiction, even a bit of horror. There's a good mix of all these elements. And the good part is it doesn't quite follow all the standard young adult tropes, which, you know, I'm pretty sick of at this point. You probably are too. It's a fresh, unique take on, I guess, feminism in a way in the 16th century, and just, you know, the Elizabeth Bathory story, which it's one of the most kind of iconic, unsettling stories we have of women from this period. Just how someone in such a high position of power could become such a murderess is really interesting, honestly. So yeah, give it a read. This book comes out on January 28th, 2020, so very soon. Yeah, order your copy today. Ta-da! Link below, check it out. Bye.